What's up, Knighthood players? It's the Tan Man, and today we're going to talk about the best charms.
Hello, Tan Man.
For a lot of players, charms are the final piece in optimizing your knight's potential. After leveling your equipment and heroes, the right combination of charms are going to take your knight's strength to the next level. The kind of charms you're going to be able to use are determined by the slots in your gear, and as of right now, they're randomly assigned. Of course, you can't always be lucky and roll the perfect combination of charm slots. The ability to reroll charm slots will be coming in a future update. But for now, let's try to make the best out of the worst situations and talk about the best charms for each type of slot. Please keep in mind these are based on my personal opinion and what we can see on paper. Let's start with the armor charms. I'm going to list these from least to most useful. First up, we have resist charms. In this group, we have charms that increase our chances of resisting status effects, and charms that decrease the damage taken from dots. The encounters in this game generally favor knights that can push out the most amount of damage. Damage mitigation isn't exactly necessary, and any incoming damage is usually offset by a good healer. For these reasons, I'm going to rank resist charms as the least desirable of all armor charms. But if you had to pick the best charms out of this category, I would rank the charms that decrease dot damage at the top, followed by increased resistance to expose, and then to weaken. Before we continue, we have to talk about minion charms. Now for these, depending on what type of player you are on par with status charms or at the bottom of the barrel. Minion charms will only benefit you in the arena, so unless you're a competitive PvP player, these charms will just take up space in your inventory. However, if you do plan on doing competitive PvP, these charms will definitely give you an edge over other knights. If you had to pick the best charms out of this category, I would start with normal damage, critical damage, and then ability damage. Healing charms are at the bottom because not all minions have healing abilities. Arena teams that focus on damage generally have a better time navigating up the ladder. Next, we have status charms. In this category, we have charms that increase dot damage and charms that lower enemy resistance to status effects. As long as your heroes are leveled up, they should generally have an easy time to land weaken, expose, and unfocus. These could help land these effects on opponents in the arena, but are hardly worth the charm slot. If you had to use a status charm, definitely go for the increased damage to dots. Okay, now we're getting into the charm slots that really set you apart from the other knights. Hero charms increase the damage or healing of a particular hero type. 3 of my top 5 heroes are mages, including Titania, who happens to synergize perfectly with the Maverick Gauntlet. For these reasons, I'm going to rank mage charms at the top of this category. The other charms will depend on what type of heroes you use the most. There are some amazing heroes in each category, so if you can't use a mage charm, feel free to use those. If I had to pick the least favorite, it would probably be rogues. Finally, we have defense charms. Honestly, if you just had these, you can probably outlive any encounter in the game. These charms add a percentage of additional armor or health. So which one do you pick? The full set of unique armor, you can see that armor charms offer a greater boost in overall effective health. Does this mean you should just focus on armor charms? Not at all. Ranged enemies as well as other various abilities can ignore armor. This may not be an issue in the early game, but you probably start noticing this in White Peak when ranged enemies can kill you in 3 turns. I've also seen a Fenfolk archer kill a perfectly healthy opponent in the arena with his ability. As such, please do try to equip some health charms. For a nice balance, try to use 1 health charm for every 2 armor charms. On to the weapon charms. Just like the armor charms, I will list these from least to most useful. Up first, we have debuff charms. These charms add a chance to inflict negative status effects on ultimate attacks. If it wasn't for the ultimate attack condition, these charms could actually be pretty nice. But in my experience, your knight doesn't have the chance to land ultimate attacks often. Especially if you use an ability in any given turn, it makes performing an ultimate attack impossible. If I had to pick the best charms in this category, it would be Expose and Weaken. Both debuffs have great applications in PvP and PvE. Next, we have Effect Charms. These charms add a chance to inflict a dot on a side or chain attack. Since there are more powerful ways to inflict these statuses, I personally don't find these charms that useful. If you had to choose between the chain attack or side attack charms, go with the chain attack charms. Chain attacks occur more frequently than side attacks, especially on single targets where side attacks are impossible to perform. Also, if you're trying to decide which weapons to put these into, consider putting them in weapons that target enemies which are weak to a specific dot. For example, I would put a chance to poison charm in a demon weapon as demons are weak to poison. On to damage charms. These charms increase attack damage to enemies inflicted with dots. They will either increase regular or ultimate attack damage. For reasons stated previously, go with the normal attack boost as ultimate attacks do not occur as often. Combine these charms with rage abilities to quickly wipe out waves of enemies. These may be useful to help 3-star difficult hunts. Just like the effect charms, put these charms into appropriate weapons based on enemy weaknesses. Next we have buff charms. These charms add a chance to gain a positive status effect on run-out attacks. A run-out attack is the first attack in any combo. Combos break if you do not attack in time. This means you can potentially have 4 actions to gain these buffs. I rate the Fury and Focus charms at the top. Having up to a 50% chance to gain 25% damage or critical chance at the start of the turn is huge. Regeneration can stack, so it's an okay option. Because there are so many ways to gain 3 turns of Protect, I feel that the flat 25% damage reduction does not have a great impact. Lastly, we have critical charms. These charms add additional critical chance or damage on side, chain, or ultimate attacks. In my opinion, these charms offer the greatest impact, the most versatility, and happen to synergize perfectly with the Maverick Gauntlet. You guys already know how I feel about that. As mentioned earlier, I prefer the chain attack charms opposed to the others due to frequency. In the choice between critical chance or critical damage, I'd go at most 2 critical chance charms and the rest critical damage. You obviously can't crit more than 100% of the time. Make sure to take the 25% from a focus buff into account when placing these charms. To recap, we have hero and defense charms at the top of the armor charms, and buff and critical charms at the top of the weapon charms. My dream build would be a 50-50 split between hero and armor charms, using all mage charms and 1 health charm for every 2 armor charms. I would also like weapons with at least 1 buff slot for a fury charm, and 3 critical slots. 1 for crit chance and 2 for critical damage on chain attacks. Of course, this dream setup of mine can potentially take years to accomplish. That's why it's important to take all the notes from this video to choose the most ideal charms for whatever slots we're given. And that's it for my charms video, guys. If you found this video informative, leave it a like and subscribe. If you have any questions or want to win some gems, be sure to check out my Twitch stream live. I stream Knighthood every Tuesday and Friday at 8 PM Eastern. Thanks for watching, guys. Tan Man out.